Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans.
At 42, John Fitzgerald Kennedy was the youngest man ever elected president, the first president born in the 20th century. His good looks, his large active family, his very youthfulness seemed to invigorate the nation.
I think it's time America started moving again.
His poise on television during the first ever presidential debates helped him win the 1960 election.
This was a man of some considerable charm. In that sense, it's impossible to separate him from the television age that spawned him.
In style, the Kennedy presidency marked a great departure from the Eisenhower years.
If Eisenhower was the president of the past, John Kennedy, it appeared to us, was the president of the future.
First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy became a force in her own right.
The camera adored her. She was able to captivate the American people. Again, it's a matter not of substance, but of style. If style is that powerful, I suppose one can say of it that it becomes a substantive component of a presidency.
They called it Camelot. Kennedy enjoyed great personal popularity and inspired a new generation to public service.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
With Americans eager to surpass the Soviets in the space race, Kennedy raised the stakes.
5, Godspeed, John Glenn. 2.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
In the early 1960s, America was a land of wealth and opportunity, but not for all. Civil rights, so long ignored, would come to the front during Kennedy's term. The leader of the struggle was Martin Luther King, Jr.
I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Early in his term, Kennedy ordered an invasion of Cuba by anti-Castro exiles. The battle at the Bay of Pigs was a fiasco and a bitter initiation for the young president. In October 1962, when Kennedy learned that Soviet nuclear missiles had been installed in Cuba, he ordered a naval blockade of the island. For a tense week, nuclear war, seemed possible. Then Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev ordered the removal of all missiles. In the summer of 1963, Kennedy toured Western Europe. Nowhere was the response greater than in Berlin, where the Berlin Wall had become a grim symbol of the Cold War. Kennedy showed his solidarity with the Berliners.
Freedom has many difficulties, and democracy is not perfect. But we have never had to put a wall up to keep our people in.
In his 1,000 days in office, many felt Kennedy had grown as president, as a leader. Until November 22nd, 1963.
Something has happened here. We understand there has been a shooting. The presidential car coming up now. We know it's the presidential car. You can see Mrs. Kennedy's pink suit. There's a Secret Service man, spread eagle, over the top of the car.
The shot rang out and he slumped down in the seat, and his wife reached up toward him.
President Kennedy has been given a blood transfusion at Parkland Hospital here in Dallas in an effort to save his... Just a moment, we have a bulletin coming in. We now switch you directly to Parkland Hospital.
The President of the United States is dead. President Kennedy has been assassinated. It's official now. The President is dead.
President Kennedy was so contemporary a man, so involved in our world, so immersed in our times, so responsive to its challenges, that he seemed the very symbol of the vitality and the exuberance
It is the essence of life itself.
John F. Kennedy was born in Brookline, Massachusetts on May 29, 1917. He was the second eldest of 9 children. His mother was Rose and his father was Joe. Joe was one of the richest men in the world and had served as ambassador to Great Britain under Franklin Roosevelt. Joe resigned his post because he did not agree with the president on foreign policy. John went to Canterbury School in New Milford, Connecticut, and then to Choate Academy in Wallingford, Connecticut. He went to Princeton for a short while, then he transferred to Harvard, where he majored in government and international relations. After spending the summer in Europe, he wrote his college thesis on the failure of England to prepare itself against Germany. The book, Why England Slept, became a bestseller. He graduated cum laude from Harvard. He enlisted in the Navy and was assigned to a PT boat squadron. He became an ensign and commanded a PT boat that patrolled the Solomon Islands. His boat was cut in half and Kennedy became a hero when he personally rescued some of the men from his ship. He won the Marine Corps Medal, the Navy Medal, and the Purple Heart. He injured his back and it continued to bother him for the rest of his life. At the end of the war, he went to work for the Hearst newspapers. He entered politics in 1946 and won the Democratic nomination to the House of Representatives in the 11th District of Massachusetts. His whole family backed him, and his father financed his elections. He won the election as congressman. In '52, he beat out Henry Cabot Lodge and won his seat in the Senate. In 1953, he married Jacqueline Bouvier. He wrote another book, Profiles in Courage, in 1954, and it quickly became a bestseller and won the Pulitzer Prize in 1957. Barely missing the nomination for vice president in 1956, he went on to win the Democratic candidacy for president in 1960. During the campaign, he and Vice President Nixon appeared on 4 nationwide television debates. Kennedy won by 112,000 votes, the narrowest margin in over 50 years. He fought for African American rights and established the Peace Corps, which sent Americans to assist the people in underdeveloped countries with education and modern farming and industrial methods. On April 17, 1961, Kennedy attempted to invade and overthrow Castro, and it resulted in disaster. It became known as the Bay of Pigs. He took full responsibility for the failure. Later that year, he met with Russian Premier Khrushchev in Vienna in an effort to settle differences, but nothing was accomplished. The Russians built up missile bases in Cuba, and Kennedy challenged the Soviet Union in 1962. He ordered a naval blockade of the island and ordered Russia to dismantle the missile sites. Russia complied and dismantled the missile sites. On November 22, 1963, Kennedy was shot down by Lee Harvey Oswald. The country went into shock, disbelieving that such a thing could happen. He was the 4th president assassinated in office. The stunned nation recalled Kennedy's words from his inaugural address. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.